G'day Year 9. I am going to take a few minutes to explain some of the tasks in here. I'm not going to do them all, but I'm going to take a bit of time to explain some of these tasks in a bit more detail than maybe the videos do, or maybe than what you may be familiar with, just to help some people that may be struggling with some of these. So I'll do a few from lesson 4, lesson 5, lesson 6, and then tomorrow I'll do some more. So this one here says write code that makes an orange ellipse behind the green one. Now when you start, you're actually going to have some code already there, and you really only need to change a few things. But what I'm going to do is do it from scratch so that you see how this program gets built up. So first thing we want to do is draw that orange ellipse. So I'm going to draw that orange ellipse here. The first two numbers are the center coordinates for the ellipse. So I can hit this and run it at any time. Well, I've got a giant gray circle here, so that's not what I want. First thing I'll need to do is actually fill the color with orange. Run it, I get my orange ellipse. Now, these numbers are a bit big, okay, especially this here. This is the width and the height. So I actually want the width to be like 200 maybe. Run. Well, that's not quite right. Maybe I go 300. That looks about right. That looks like about the same shape there. So what we've got is an ellipse drawn at 200 by 200. If I show the grid, you can see and look down here. That is roughly 200 by 200 right in the center. So that's the center of it. The width of it is 300. So 100, 200, 300. And the height of it is, the width of it, that's the diameter, sorry, not the radius. So the diameter of it is 300, the radius would be half that, and the height of this is, the diameter of it vertically is 400. So if I count from the top to the bottom, it's 50, 100, 200, 300, 400. Okay, so there's the coordinates there. 200, 200 is the center. That's just for that ellipse. Now I want the green one in the middle, so I'm going to need to change this fill color to green. So when it draws anything, it's drawing green. And I want to draw that. Now the ellipse center is going to be the same, but it looks like the width, the diameter is going to be 200, but the height itself is only going to be maybe 100. 200. The diameter is going to be from here to here. That'll be 200. Yep, 200, and the height is going to be maybe 150. And then I can reset that and run that, and I get that circle. It may not be exact, it doesn't matter, it doesn't check it in here, but it's going to be close enough. So the way the program runs is it goes from top to bottom. It sets a fill to orange, then it draws the ellipse with the fill color that's already selected. So some of you may be getting confused and thinking, draw the ellipse, then fill it with orange. It doesn't work that way. What fill does is it sets the color. Okay, so it sets the color to fill. Whoops. So that's that one. If I pick another one up here, more parameters. This one here, I'll just delete this stuff here. So it says random number. So it adds a new math function in here, random number. It chooses a random number between the numbers that you put in. So this one here, I'll go to the next one. I'll find one that actually asks me to do something and replicate an image. Okay, so I've got to replicate this one here. So I'll get rid of these and then I'll go from the start. So first of all, set the background color. It says, looks like red. It's actually not red because I saw it before. It was tomato. So I'll run that. It's a softer red. So we've got that background color there. Now what we want to do is we want to draw the circle at a random position. So use random number for the Y parameter so the circle is drawn in a random Y position too. As long as your circle is appearing at random X and Y positions, you can move on. So let's draw the circle. Let's set the fill color first to yellow or orange, and then draw a circle. Doesn't matter where. I'm going to set the width to 50 by 50. So if I reset that, it's going to draw a circle right in the center. But we want it to draw it randomly on the screen. So we can actually grab the math box and put it here, random number here. Now, this is up to you, okay? And in this case, we know that it's 0 here and 400 here. So we could say, and also 0 here and 400 down. So we could say from 0 to 400. But I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go from 50 to 350, just so my circle actually stays in the screen. 50 to 350. And then when I run it, if I keep on running it, my circle will appear in different locations all around that. A random location every time, so it picks a random X position, a random Y position. You could put these in here. If I go 50 to 100, and then in here, 50 to 100, and now it's going to be a random size and shape. And you can see as I click on that quickly that it kind of squishes and changes shape because we've got random values in here. Now if I go to number 10, using random numbers, so I'm number 11. If I look at using random numbers here, this one asks me to draw this little snake, and I'm going to do it from scratch. I'm just going to show the text and delete it all, and then go back to blocks. So first thing I would set the background color. It doesn't ask you to do this, you only need to make modifications to it, but I'm building it up from scratch so you can see what's actually happening. So I'll change this to sky blue. Let's see, there we go, so that's right. That was a guess actually, I didn't read it before. And then I want to set the fill color. I want to set the fill color to red. And I'm going to draw an ellipse. This one is going to be, I'm going to draw it at, let's say 100, 200. That's going to be the center of it. So 100, 200. That's going to be the center. The size of this is going to be 50, 50. Let's just get the circles drawn and then we can add the random part later. So I can't actually duplicate that. Oh, nope. So we'll change the fill color. This one's going to be orange. And I'll put in another ellipse. This one is going to be 150, 200. So I'll make them 50 every time. 150, 200. I'll actually make these 75, 75, 75, 75. And I'll hit run. So I've got that so far. And then the next one, fill color is going to be yellow. It's already yellow. So the coordinates for this next one is going to be 200 and 200. And the size is going to be 75, 75. And then the fill color for the next one is going to be green. And then the ellipse for this one is going to be 250, 200, 75, 75. And I'll just check that. Yep. And then the next one, fill color, is going to be blue. And the ellipse for this one is going to be 300, 75, 75. And then the last one will be purple. It needs those quotation marks around it. 350, 75, 75. Okay, so it's not exactly the same. Like I said, you don't need to redraw yours. Yours might be different. But now what it asks me to do. Okay, so that's how that code is built up there. What it asks me to then do after I've done that, or what it asks you to do, add at least 3 different colored circles to your snake. So probably should have done that. And then, so I think it only gives you 3 to start with and you add the others in. Use random number to make the rest of the snake's body move up and down like the first 3. Okay, so we only need to do this to the Y. Okay, so this is the X, this is the Y. And we're going to change it to from, let's see, we want it to be potentially here all the way down to here. So it's going to be from 0, 50, 100, 150. So 150 to 250. 150 to 250. Now there's no way to duplicate that, so I just have to put that here, 150, 250. 150, 250. 150, 250. and so on. I won't do the rest, but as I run it now, you'll see these ones at the front will change. Now, sometimes it may go up and down, and you may use different numbers. I'm not sure what the original one does, but you can see how this is running. So that's shapes and randomization. Now, the next one, if I go back to, I think it's course catalog, it's kind of tricky here. Oh no, here we go. What's the next one? Variables. Okay, and this is where a few people got stuck. So I'm going to just jump into here and I'll go through a few of these. So in this program, the variable x position is used to store the x coordinate of the circle. Okay, so if I run the program, x position equals 200, y position equals 150, and what's happened is they've just typed those names in there and they can be used again and again. Now if I change the value here to 150, you'll see the circle draws in a different location. I'll make it really obvious. If I change it to 0, the circle draws over here. So this here is taking on the value of whatever it gets assigned at the top. And this is how a variable works. So if I jump over to number 8, for example, I'll just jump a bit forward and I'll go, oops, can't do blocks. This program has multiple errors caused by bad label names. There are some errors, there are some rules you need to follow when you write the name of a variable. First of all, it can't have any spaces. Okay, so we fix up the underscores. We fix up that name by replacing spaces with underscores. You also can't start with a number. So I'll call that x dimension, I'm guessing. I'm going to call it x location because x dimension doesn't make any sense. Okay, you can have capitals in it. You should never start with a capital. You should always start with a lowercase. Use spaces, use underscores instead of spaces. You can never start with a number. So this should actually work now. If I click run, well, we can't figure out what Y location is. Oh, down here. The other thing is it's case sensitive. So if you spell it Y location with a lowercase y and a capital L, then it needs to be spelt that way there as well. And then it works. So there's those rules for writing variable names. And if I go to number 9, I think this is the bigger one. Variables can also be assigned a random number. So what this lets you do is pick a random number, assign it to the variable, and then reuse that same random number multiple times. So down here, this is actually, I think, already done. I size is assigned a random number. Unfortunately, only one of the I's is currently using it. So if I run the program, you can see one of those I's is using the random number, but we want both of them to use it. So what that means is for the second ellipse that is drawn, I can go show blocks. The second ellipse that is drawn, I actually want that to use the I size variable as well, instead of just being size 10. So now the I's will always be the same size. You can see they are. So what's happening here is I size is a random number between 10 and 60. Let's make it 50 and 150 just for fun. Okay, so we get some really big I's there. But what happens is it picks a random number. So say it picks the number 55. I size is now equal to 55. Then down here, it goes 55, 55, 55, 55. Otherwise, if we put this down here in all 4 of those blocks, whoops, then what happens is it generates a new random number for each I size, and we get completely different I's that are all out of whack. So that's what variables can be used for. Loads of different stuff that variables can be used for. For some reason, it puts the naming variable section right at the end instead of at the start, and then it quizzes you on it before it actually covers it. The next section is where we got up to in class, I think. So, intro to sprites. Creating sprites. So a sprite in here is just a graphic, something that can be drawn on the screen. And we've got variable sprite equals create sprite. So creating sprites, it creates a new sprite and assigns it to a variable. In this case, the variable's name is Sprite. The default name is Sprite, so we're going to actually change this to something different. I'm going to change it to burger. If I run it, it's actually just a square. That's the only thing that's there. Sprites only appear on the screen when you draw them there. Calling the draw sprites function will draw all of your created sprites on the screen. Okay, so we've got the sprites. There's only one sprite. Here it is. It's here. But I'm not sure where you actually set the graphic. That may be in the next one. Okay, you can ignore the yellow triangle warning for now. We've done that. So that's how we create a sprite by using this and say create sprite like that. You can give it a width and a height, but we don't need to do that at the moment. I'm just thinking that in the next slide, it's going to let us actually load a sprite in. What's this one here? Instructions. Oh yeah, okay, so this is just asking here, when run, where will the sprite, my sprite, this one that's created, be located? So 300, 100, whereabouts is that on the screen? You can kind of grab the grid and go, well, 300, 100 is actually right there. So which one is it? It's not hard. If I go to this one, I'm just trying to find the part where, like, it's just creating empty sprites at the moment, and you can read through that because it's very similar to shapes. Adding images, this is the one that I want, number 9. Okay, sprites, code, animation, there we go. We've got the animation tab up here now. So now we've got, in the world, we've got draw sprites. In sprites, we've got this stuff, and I'm just going to delete this and do it. Does it not let me delete it? Clear? Nope. Delete. Let's go show text. There we go. All right, so what I want to do is I want to create a sprite. I'll go back to show blocks. I want to create a sprite, and I'm going to call it Jumpman. Jumpman equals create sprite. But if I just do this, draw sprites now, it's just going to draw a gray rectangle. Okay, there's no sprite associated with it. So what I want to do is actually set the animation. Now the animation doesn't have to necessarily be an animation, it could just be a still image. But if I go into here, I've got these 3 different little animations. I could add a new animation, and I can pick characters, and there's all these different little dudes here. So let's pick this guy, beige jump, and I'm going to call it Jumpman. And I go back to code. I'm going to set the animation to Jumpman. And then I'm going to draw the sprite. Run. We can't figure out what the sprite is. Maybe you meant sprite with, oh, that should be Jumpman.setAnimation. So that's my sprite, Jumpman.setAnimation. And there it is. So now, whenever the Jumpman sprite is drawn, it has the animation called Jumpman. If I change this to alien and hit run, it's got the alien animation. If I change the Jumpman variable name, if I change the animation to bunny, it has the bunny. Okay, so this here is just the variable name. It's how I refer to the sprite, and then this is what the sprite actually is. If I go to, there is ways you can upload your own images as well. I'm not going to do that. There's a whole section here on making scenes, which I might cover a little bit more tomorrow, and go through actually creating this little sprite thing here, because it kind of puts everything together. It puts the sprites together, and then it puts drawing rectangles together, drawing text on the screen, and adding all that different stuff in there. So I'll cover that tomorrow, but hopefully some of this was a bit helpful for those of you that might have been struggling with this, and we'll continue tomorrow.